Hey there! Today we're going to talk about naming notes in the treble clef and the bass clef. There's also a companion worksheet to complete with this, so enjoy working on that. Alright, so we're going to use our note finder here to just kind of review some stuff that you probably are already fairly familiar with. We're going to look at mostly guide notes in the beginning here. So guide notes are those notes that we can identify quickly, that we can count from to find the name of other notes. So this one, probably the most popular, middle C. From middle C you can count up or down easily to find nearby notes. So here's middle C, we can go down one to find B, or up one to find D. So middle C is our first guide note, probably the most popular. Okay, then this one, treble G, is the probably next most popular one. And this one can easily be found by looking for the line going through the spiral of the treble clef. So there's our G. Some people like to call this treble G. That works as well. Or you can think of it as the G in the treble clef. Either way works. Alright, this next guide note is F, and we call this one flyaway F. That's the way that I learned it. I think it's easy to remember that way because it's all the way up on the top, sort of flying away. So from F, you can count down a couple of notes or a few notes. You can also count up because those notes can extend up here beyond the treble staff. So we had middle C, treble G, and flyaway F. Okay, so those are our treble clef guide notes. Now our bass clef guide notes are actually also C, F, and G. They're just in different places, except the C. The middle C stays in the same place. Now I realize the stem on here is facing an inappropriate direction sometimes, but the nature of this tool doesn't let me switch around the direction of the stem there. So you'll just have to pretend it's going the correct direction. So here's our middle C. Then we've got bass F. Now F can be found by finding the line going through the two dots of the bass clef. So that one's bass F. And then all the way down here was G. That's ground level G. So on the bottom we had ground level G, and then at the top we have flyaway F. So F at the top, G at the bottom. Alright, so our guide notes in the bass clef are C, bass F, and ground level G. Alright, so from these you can count up or down to other notes. And the way that I like to find the note names is by reading them by interval, or reading them intervallically, we call it. So if you have a note, say you're looking for this note right here, a great way to start is by finding the closest guide note. Now if you remember, F is just right above it, at bass F. So if you know this one's F, and you know you're searching for this one, you just count down one and you find E. Alright, so remember, if it goes down on the staff or down on the page, it also moves down on the piano or backwards in the alphabet. So if you have E, you're looking for a note above E, you go forward in the alphabet or up on the piano. Okay, so let's try a little bit of a harder one. If we look, let's say for this note right here. Now, the closest guide note is ground level G. Now this note right here is on a line. That's the one we're looking for. And this note, ground level G, is also on a line. So because they're both on lines, we know that this is a skip. It's skipping over the note that could be placed in the space. But there's no note there, we're just skipping over it, heading right onto the B. Okay, so G skips up to B. All right, let's get a little bit of a harder one here. How about this one? Now this one's in between two guide notes. Usually middle C is a little bit easier to find, so lots of people will choose middle C for this one. So if you have C and you skip down, or you have bass F and you skip up. Either way, if you go from F, you can count forward in the alphabet and go F, G, A. That's an A. Or you can have C and count backwards. You can go C, B, A. Either way, it's a skip down from C or a skip up from F. And you can use either guide note to find the right answer. All right, so let's try some treble clef notes. All right, we've got this one right here. Now it's kind of not very close to fly away F or to treble G. So let's pick treble G and we'll count from there, because if we go up from the note we're counting, it's a little easier because you can count forward in the alphabet then. So we've got, remember this is the note we're looking for in that space. We're going to find the G that we know and go G, A, B, C. So that one's a C. Now keep in mind, this is not middle C, because middle C is all the way down here. This is the C above middle C. Some people like to call it treble C. You can call it that. Now you can also find treble C by counting down or backwards from flyaway F. So we've got F, E, D, and C. Now what I want you to try doing is counting by interval, sort of like what we were doing in the bass clef when we were looking for B. We knew it was a skip up from G. We know that's a third up. Now if you find, let's say this one right here, how about that one, on that line right there. That one's a skip up from G. So think about the note that is a third up from G. You can look at your piano if you want, or perhaps you may just know it. A skip up from G. That one's a B. So you've got G, A, B. And I encourage you to start seeing these as a skip or a third up, or even bigger intervals too. Say you're looking for this one. You can think, oh, that's 2 skips up from G, because it goes G's on a line, another line, and another line. So that one's 2 skips or a 5th up from G. Now if you see that as a 5th up from G, you can easily find that on your keyboard because your hand naturally stretches the interval of a 5th, and you can just see the note that's a 5th above G. It's pretty easy to find that way. And it's a great way to find it because if you count and you go G, A, B, C, oh, that's D. There's a good chance you'll get the right answer, but it takes a little bit longer, and there's a possibility that you might not get the right answer because something might have gone wrong along the way. Perhaps your counting got a little bit confused or something happened and you didn't arrive at the correct answer. If you see it as a 5th, it's a little bit of a sure bet that you're going to have the right answer. So try and see the intervals between the notes. All right, let's start from here again, and we're going to look for this note right here. Now it's tempting to think, oh, she started at C, so I better count that interval or count up from C. You can, that'll work, but remember your other guide notes, like G. You can count down 1 and you find F. And that's a second, just counting a second down. All right, here's a trickier one. So we said this one was fly away F. I want you to try to find this note. So again, reading by the interval, it went from a line note, or you can think of a line note as being the closest guide note, fly away F, and then it went to another line note. So it's a third up or a skip up. You can play that on your keyboard, or you can think, what is a skip up from F? And hopefully you find A, because this is an A. Now these lines up here, they just kind of continue the staff. Now if we had a staff that was really, really big and stretched like 7 or 8 lines, it would be a lot harder to read. So they keep the staff with only having 5 lines or 4 spaces. And then they just add lines as necessary for when the notes need to go extra high or extra low. And they can go beyond this too. This is just the most common ones. Those lines are called ledger lines. And it's spelled L-E-D-G-E-R. Those are those ledger lines that take you beyond the staff if necessary. And middle C is actually probably the first note you learned, and that's a ledger line too. So ledger lines aren't necessarily something new. They just might be new that you're seeing them up above or down below the staff. But the same rules apply, you just keep counting through them. All right, so I'm going to show you a series of notes. There's going to be some in the treble clef, some in the bass clef, and I want you to write down the names of the notes as quickly as you can. And if you need to rewatch this part of the video to double check them, or maybe I went too fast and you missed one, you can. You can just back the video up and watch this section again. And we can go over this if you have any questions. So here is your series of notes. We're going to start with, oh, I've got a train going by. Sorry about that. But I get to stop talking here. So just check out these notes. All right, we're going to start with this one. Okay, so go ahead and write those down, and we can go over them if you have any questions. All right, thanks for watching.